this is quite difficult for me to talk about because it's something that I'm quite ashamed about. I'm a white guy from a rural area, and when I was between the ages of 13 to 15, I was quite a racist person. Maybe even older, and
there's no shame in that. I'm working on the presumption that you're not anymore, Charlie. Otherwise, this call's going to go off in a very interesting direction.
I think I felt compelled to ring in, and I'm actually trying, although I'm a terrible writer, to write about it, and if that goes anyway, then great. But the lack of education that I received on it and the influx of media influence kind of turned me into, even though I had parents who spoke, of love and compassion and, taught very strongly against this, I was a paper boy. And every single day I would read the papers as I was going around. And every single day you'd hear negative things in the newspapers about young black kids specifically and Muslims. And it turned me into this horrible, horrible person.
Gosh.
And really, I think, what is maybe not highlighted enough is the fact that, a lot of in these very rural communities, when I went to school, we never went to a mosque, we never went to a synagogue. We never had the opportunity to visit or people of different colours or people of different faiths. There was one black person in my entire school, and he was a teacher. So the lack of awareness and the lack of meeting other people, and it was only through, me going to sixth form and then university and actually meeting people and engaging and having conversations. But, I actually have, empathy for some of the individuals, back in my hometown who haven't had the opportunity to
No, but this is
out.
It, Charlie, this is it. And this is why you don't be too hard on yourself, because I realised a few years ago, and doing this job was part of the process, that you were the ripest, you were the low-hanging fruit, you're the easiest. If I want to persuade someone that all the immigrants or all the black people or all the Muslims are coming over to take our jobs or to steal our money then the easiest people to persuade are the people who have next to no experience at all of the individuals that are being generalised about and described. The numbers support it. The areas with the lowest levels of immigration have the highest concerns about the impact of immigration. The areas where we all live happily alongside each other generally record the lowest levels of concern about immigration. So you simply needed to meet people in order to see that they were essentially just like you and no more represented by criminals and terrorists in the newspaper than you would be represented by white criminals and terrorists in the newspaper.
It's interesting when I almost got involved in, the BNP movement. I didn't in the end just purely because I didn't have a bike to be able to get to the meetings. Interestingly, if my parents ever knew that I had gone, they would have absolutely murdered me.
So all that stood between you and signing up to a racist organisation was the lack of a rally chopper.
I think it's important to point out why, because I was someone who, I went to, a very underfunded school. Yeah. I got bad grades, and I had zero self-worth, absolutely zero. Yeah. And then this group of people said to me, "Don't worry that that you aren't good in your education. Don't worry that you have low self-esteem. You are inherently better. You are an inherently better person purely because of your nationality and because of your skin color."
Yeah.
And that, to a lot of young, especially rural, but not, specifically young white kids, is a huge lure, because, if you can suddenly find this self-worth where you are not only better than every other person of a different skin color, but you're better than every other white person in the world because you're English, and you are better than every other Englishman because you're standing up for this cause that you adamantly believe in, you're suddenly elevating yourself and your self-worth above thousands, millions of other people. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you were the lowest of the low, but in your own head,
Everybody. I mean, it makes you feel special, and nothing else in your life at that time did make you feel special. Quite the opposite, in fact. Most of it made you feel, as you say, worthless, no self-worth. And someone comes along and goes, "Well, you're better than them." And not only are you better than them, but they're coming for what little you've got.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to. I think people are. And I saw it in the aftermath of. I'm actually thankful for the experience in a way, because in the aftermath of Brexit, I can remember going on to Facebook, and all of my, apparently very liberal friends were in a disguise, basically saying, all these working class people are stupid, they're idiots, they're bigots. What people need, and I think it's so important to understand, is that if you haven't been given the opportunity to integrate, if you haven't been given this education that, a lot of my London friends had.
Absolutely.
How are you to know? And
who's going to help you? And where's the corrective? You've got all the people pouring poison into your ear, whether it's conscious or not. The headlines that identify the ethnicity of a criminal, but never the ethnicity of a good Samaritan. Where's the counterbalance to that? Who's whispering in there? Where's the angel on their right shoulder to counterbalance the little devil on their left shoulder, Charlie?
I really implore people to, rather than shout racist, rather than shout idiot, rather than shout stupid or bigot, to try and realise that, if you have that privilege of understanding, I have quite bad ADHD. I find it really hard to just sit down and read a book. If you are someone who has the privilege of being educated, you have
be aware of
duty. You have. I do feel you have the duty to educate other people and educate other people with
one caveat. Charlie, what a lovely call. I'm so grateful to you. I'm very late for the break. It's the only reason I'm moving on. And for people who are prepared to take Charlie's advice, do be aware that even if you do all of the things he says, then the purveyors of poison will still accuse you of calling everybody stupid and racist and bigoted, even when you bend over backwards every day not to, because that's another way in which they get to, continue the brainwashing, keep the poison in the bloodstream.